Welcome back to Establishing Faith. I am Victoria and this is 21 Days of Leadership. Today we are talking about whenever you want to implement something new within your family, within your organization, a new system, a new process, or even some kind of new invention. How do you start? How do you get your team on board? So yesterday we talked about when you want to set a really big goal, get everyone moving towards the same direction. You want to set a goal or a desire or a target that's 100 times bigger than what you're doing right now within your family or within your organization. But whenever you set that 100x goal, how do you get started? How do you get started getting everyone on board? And this is where it's really, really useful to start with a prototype of something. And so I'm going to get a little bit nerdy for a sec because my background is aerospace engineering. But whenever you want to build your first prototype or you want to create the first iteration of something, you start with the materials that you have. You start with a really rough sketch. You start with a really rough outline of what you think you want to do. So if you have a desire that you want to hit that's 100 times bigger than what you're doing right now, you need to create a rough outline of a roadmap or a rough outline of a system to implement that will get you where you want to go. But the first trial, the first system, the first design isn't going to be the final design. Keep in mind, things that can go wrong will, things that can break more than likely will at some point in time, and you are only acting based on the information that you have. The more information you have, the further along you get, you're going to have to iterate and adjust it based on the new needs of the organization or the system as it grows and as you implement it. So whenever you're starting with your rough draft or your prototype, how can you already use the people that you have? If you want to put a system in place for developing leadership within your organization, how can you use a couple of people in your organization that are already in leadership positions? How can you train them in the way that you want to start training everyone else on your team? See how it works, and then get feedback. Find out, based on that small group of people, what worked, what didn't work, what they like, what they think they should change, what would be appropriate for different positions within your organization. And the same thing works for your family. If you want to build a system in place to help your kids get their homework done faster when they come home from school, or have a smooth before bed routine, start small. Start with, okay, let's put our backpacks in this place. Let's have a snack first. Let's have a really specific system that you try with what you have. You don't have to go above and beyond and buy a new desk for your kids to do their homework and make a whole entire classroom in your house. That's crazy. That's over the top. That might be where you end up, but that doesn't have to be where you start. So whether this is in your organization or if it's in your family, you start with what you have. And keep in mind, failure only happens if you completely stop. And you're not a quitter. If you are here in the Establishing Faith family, you are not a quitter. So therefore, failure is impossible. The other thing that we need to change is the stigma around doing something wrong, doing something considered failing. Because really, failure is just feedback. When something's not working, that's just feedback. It's redirection. It's really no such thing as, oh my gosh, we completely failed. If you quit, you fail. But you're not a quitter, like we said. So how can we take the situation that's not quite working, instead of calling it failure, how can we call it feedback within your organization, within your family, within your personal life? Whenever something's not working, how can you take that feedback and channel it into redesigning your prototype, redesigning your system, iterating upon what you already have? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just reinvent one small part at a time. And as you adjust and as you get more feedback, you have more redirection and you have more data with which to move forward. A lot of the time we talk about data-driven decisions. Sometimes your prototype, your very first iteration, is completely based off of your intuition. Your intuition and your internal guidance system, your wisdom of your body and of God and of your experience is telling you needs to change or needs to happen or needs to be implemented. It's okay if you don't have data for the first prototype. You get data as you move forward. You get data from feedback, from implementing the first prototype, from moving forward with something, moving forward with what you have, implementing whatever resources you have available to you in the moment. How can you move forward with that and use the feedback that you get from implementing that first prototype as redirection to help guide your decision making going forward? Because that gives you the data that you can couple with your intuition, and heart-centered leadership coupled with data is a recipe for success. It is a recipe to the fast track. And this is how you get to that 100x goal without spending 100x more time. How can you multiply the things that you already have within your family or within your organization that are already working? How can you duplicate those systems so that the systems are working for you and with you towards that goal? So that's why we say 100x is easier than 2x, because 2x, normally you think, okay, I need twice as much effort, I need twice as much work, and you just duplicate yourself. But when we think of the 100x expansion, you think of what systems can I implement that can work 10 times as hard as I do and take off 10 times as much of the time that I would normally spend doing that task. How can it multiply that by 10? And you do that 10 times, and that multiplies and that adds up, and that's compounding exponential growth that helps you get to where you want to go faster. So whenever you can think in a systems way, think about how you can develop systems to duplicate yourself, to duplicate your best team members, to duplicate some of those repetitive tasks that you might have to do every single day. And these systems can be implemented within your family and within your organization. And this is how you get your family, your team members on board with the first initiation, with the first prototype, and then you learn from there. You take that feedback, you use it as redirection, and you keep iterating from there. So if the first one doesn't work out, don't take it personally. It's good feedback. It is still positive feedback, because that is information telling you what's not working. And 9 times out of 10, it's as helpful to know what doesn't work as helpful as it is to know what does work. So take your time, prototype, iterate, use that feedback as redirection, and that's how you make systems that'll help you grow to that 100x, and that'll help get your family on board, your team members on board, and your clients on board. So let me know what systems you're going to try. Let me know what systems you're going to implement. Let me know what your first prototype is, what it looks like, how you're going to prototype a system in your family, how you're going to prototype a system in your organization. What is your 100x goal? How do you want to grow? How do you want to grow yourself and your leadership? How do you want to grow your organization? And how do you want to show your family you love them 100 times more than you're already doing? I love you guys so much, and I will see you tomorrow.